you hear the saying, you know, where your heart goes, your wallet will follow. So we spend money on the things that matter to us. You know what I'm saying? Outside of like basic, our just whatever our discretionary income is, once we get past food, water, shelter, then we're getting into what we like. And, you know.
Right.
So one thing I've noticed in the news is that authenticity creates a vulnerability, and that vulnerability can and often is exploited. It's exploited by the brands that we wear. It's exploited by the companies, the influencers, the entire ecosystem, to a degree. And maybe this is a heavy word, but it preys on that vulnerability that is connected to yourself and your style and how you present yourself. So it's been in the news that your man, Don,
not my uncle,
your president,
you know,
your president, Donald Trump, came out with his own line of sneakers, right? And let's get out the way. The shoes are trash, right? They're terrible. That's not what I want to say. A gold high top. They look like Amazon shoes.
I think I got a pair of fake Coach gold high tops from the market in Columbus when I was in 10th grade. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yes. They very much look like the Skechers high tops that like Zendaya wore on Shake It Up, right? They very much look like preteen. Like, cause that's my daughter's era. So like she was wearing like lots of layers. So like the sleeves with the cut off denim jacket and the lace, like all that stuff, right? That's what they look like.
Oh man.
So yeah, money, like they look like masterpiece shoes, 100%. And so, but what really got me was how he went about revealing them, and I think that's an interesting conversation to have. So they were revealed at SneakerCon, which is a big, like, that is the sneaker event. And then like his people kind of came to that space and kind of took it over, right? And it became a thing, and like and they made it like super limited, and like clearly somebody on his advisory team like at least has somewhat of an understanding of the sneaker market and like how it works, right? But this is something that Taylor and I talked about. I'm good. I'm recording raw on my DVR. So go back and watch wrestling when I'm done. But I'm glad it's good. What I'm noticing that was really interesting was Taylor and I talked about this on an old episode of COVID Community, where like pandemic and you know extra discretionary money brought in a lot of like opportunists and a lot of people who wanted to exploit that vulnerability that I talked about.
Yep.
And clearly this is an example of that. And you know what, to be honest, like I would understand that a Donald Trump would do that. You know what I'm saying? He absolutely would exploit vulnerability for personal gain. That's his brand, right? But what really bothered me were the influencers, the resellers, like immediately like standing next to him, taking a picture, pointing to it, like co-signing the shoe. The shoe is ugly. Like, never mind it's made by Donald Trump. It's ugly. Where's the value? And then my question is like, where's your integrity to say, I'm not gonna do this because this is like it's kind of corny. Right, it's corny. Have you even seen Trump in a pair of sneakers before?
I have never, nor do I ever want to, and it's jarring. It's it didn't make a lot of sense. I didn't even look into it till you kind of brought it up, but it to your point, very opportunistic, very predatory, very like a cash grab. I just was very confused by that introduction into that, and it did make me wonder who was on his team, and then it made me wonder why he was welcomed into that space or who allowed that, right? Because I think a lot of times some of those spaces can be really protective over preserving the culture of the space. And then you have people, like kind of we talked about, who just want proximity to power, that will be okay with being seen in a picture because it warrants more exposure. And maybe some of them morally really associate with him in that way. And they're excited to see him because they do respect him as a leader. But all of it just, it was very jarring to see. And it still doesn't, it almost felt like, everything feels like a movie, though, to me. I'll be honest. A lot of these things, but especially anything to do with Donald Trump, feels like a movie and feels just like a secret TV show is being filmed and we're all getting punked. But this was especially top tier version of that.
Yeah. One thing that, you know, I always tell people is like, whenever something doesn't make sense, when you look at allegiances or moves or strategies, follow the money, right? So when you go into, when you ask the question, how did he get into that space? You find out that the CEO of SneakerCon or the organizer of SneakerCon is a big Trump supporter and has donated to his campaign.
There you go.
Right?
There you go.
So I guess here's what bothers me about the people who took it wasn't that they took the picture with the shoe. I think when you are someone who are new to the culture, you don't understand the culture, and really you should approach it from a place of like humility and just wanting to learn. But you don't do that. You establish yourself as an authority in the space because you have money and you have resources and you have influence and you have power. And these people like standing next to or allowing that type of energy to come into SneakerCon, taking the pictures of SneakerCon, all that stuff, like it says to me that you are tone deaf to the culture that you're participating in. And we kind of like, people say this, we kind of need gatekeepers. We kind of need gatekeepers. Like, we need it in music. We need somebody to come in and be like, nah, that's trash. Don't make me, maybe you should be a manager and not an artist. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you should just be a fan, start a blog, something, but like actually creating music is not for you. On a similar token, like maybe you should just like not start a YouTube or not start a business because
but capitalism, Armand, but capitalism.
Absolutely.
Anybody can do it. Anybody can join. Anybody, if you have the capital, can take part in the system. And that's a danger. It's this idea of, it can be dangerous. I mean, it's for capitalistic gain. Even it was so, to your point, it's so obvious that posing with somebody who has that kind of power, right? And has that kind of, like, imagine you have to really, just like we're talking about interrupting like a behavior, if you are someone who is an influencer who desires numbers and exposure and money and numbers, if that's what you want and that's your whole livelihood, people will sacrifice their morals, their integrity, they'll sacrifice community, they'll sacrifice people to get themselves to that next level. And so them posing with him being the greatest opportunity in their mind superseded probably a lot of their other associations. But to your point, I think it's on the sneaker community itself to be like, we didn't ask him to be here, nor do we want him here. And no, we're not going to support that. But it is, and we talked about this, and this might take us to our last point, because I think we're talking about the idea of authenticity in these places that we are always being sold to. Please understand, we are always being sold to. And so when we talk about engaging with accounts for style purposes, even us, I mean, I don't have a product right now that I'm trying to sell to y'all. So just know, I'm not trying to sell my new denim shirts dropping next week. I'm so glad I did. But we're always being sold to the president of the United States is selling us sneakers, y'all. Like the former president. Ew, I'm so sorry I said that. That was a Freudian slip. 45 is what I normally call him because he doesn't even, anyway, so 45 is selling us sneakers. And you think about the idea that like that's possible. and that's going to happen, but we have to be in connection with our authentic perspective and what we actually like and what resonates with our lifestyle. All these things we've been talking about so far, we have to know that and be grounded in that and say no to certain things that are like out of our alignment, outside of our value system, that are going to compromise community. There are things that I don't buy because I feel they're appropriation of a culture I'm not part of. I may love them, but I don't buy them because I'm a white woman, and that would be for me towing a line. And so I think there are things that, if no one has to consider this, but I'm saying consider the lengths you'll go to for exposure, for, you know, whatever. And that's, I wish those folks would consider that, and consider that they're going to probably lose connections because of what they sacrificed in that moment.
And I think the last thing I'll say is that, you know, I'm somebody who's very empathetic, and I like to take in different perspectives. You know, I've just grown up around, I've been blessed enough to grow up around different kinds of people, and, you know, how you get to a place is how you get to a place, and I respect that. So when it comes to like sneaker culture and just fashion culture in general, many people get to fashion in different ways, and we're about to get into that. But when it comes to like position and authenticity, like in order for authenticity to exist, that means like fraudulence has to exist as well. So when you get into some of these spaces and you hear people justify what is authentic to them, and it's typically surrounded in capitalism. So in the sneaker community, it is what resells for the highest value. That's fraudulent. And that is anti the culture that we participate in and we explore and love and like validate. You know what I'm saying? So like, to your point, if we are just a part of this space, it's okay to point at something and be like, no, no. So it's so important for us to be, and I think this is just like, just period in life. It's so important for this next season of our lives to be rooted and grounded in who we are, because so many things are about to come for that. That like when you say no, your no is going to carry some weight, and it's going to travel, because when you're like, yo, I don't want to wear the new Travis Scotts, and no shot, I got Travis Scott, so this isn't a shot. So I don't want to wear the new Travis Scotts. I want to wear, like Tanika said, some Fila's, right? Fila's are authentic to her. Travis Scotts are not authentic to her. So if she's wearing Travis Scotts, that just feels disingenuous, when fashion is all about genuine authenticity. And you got to lean into that moving forward, because it's about to get real out here. And so if Trump and anybody else is going to come in that space and try to like establish themselves in the community, it's the authenticity is going to shine so bright. The fraudulence is just going to look really bad.
That's good. That's good, because I think, you know, fashion, to your point, it can represent a lot of different things to a lot of people. You know, there will be some people that will purchase that item simply in support of a person, which we all have done in a way of, I purchased this item. It may not be my favorite thing, but I love this person, so I'll sacrifice the quality or whatever it is because I love what they're doing and I want to support them. And so he's really capitalizing on this particular audience. And I thought I saw like sneakerheads for Trump. So there are definitely people who will purchase this regardless of it being a quality product or not, simply because it's a product coming from him. Just like I was thinking about how those MAGA hats were everywhere. They're not good quality, nice hats. People just started knocking off all this stuff. Like maybe there'll be knockoff Trump sneakers. Like I'm sure there will be. I'm sure it's already in the works for there to be
100%.
I mean, why wouldn't there be? You know, someone's going to capitalize on him capitalizing, and that's how this whole thing continues. But to your point, the authenticity and the discovery of style, especially in an age where we're now going to have artificial things proposed as real, you know, and I think it's so relevant for you to consider what you actually like. And sometimes you have to get away from the things that you're engaging in to know what you actually like, which is why we did this fast. Okay. So we can talk about in summation, your style, the formation of your style.
Yeah.